Good morning. How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday morning. California time here is 10:45 a.m. Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 is the date. Latest earthquake activity shows a 1.7 here in the green flag up around Alaska. A little bit of movement happening up in Washington as well within the last hour. Going to have to excuse my voice here. Still not quite back to normal, but we're getting better hour by hour, hopefully. 3.0 or up around the Greenwater, Washington area. That's well outside of Seattle, north of Mount Rainier. A little bit of earthquake swarming going on down there across this volcano. Nothing of any major significance, but there's that three-pointer. About 20 miles or so due to the north and northeast of that volcano in Washington State. Very, it's somewhat deep, about 5 miles deep underneath this area. I pulled up the Mount Rainier seismograph station viewer here. This is from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network that monitors the data there across volcanoes. This is for Mount Rainier. There's a couple of those smaller quakes there, local. And there's a good 3 or 4, maybe 5 of them. USGS actually listing all of them. Here's a recent three-pointer away from Mount Rainier. So a little bit of a movement up around the Cascades here today. Not necessarily associated with volcanic activity. This movement around Mount Rainier, very shallow. And I believe that's just seen some crustal quakes out here. But we'll continue to watch it. Of course, tremor activity down along the southern end of the Cascadia has been somewhat active. That's across Northern California right here. A little bit more earthquake activity here overnight. 2-pointer. Actually, we had another 3.1, 2.0, and a 1.6 here across the southern end of the Cascadia. Most of the tremor, again, has been positioned down south here. And I'll show you guys real quick the tremor map for the Cascadia subduction zone from yesterday. 465 epicenters of tremor. That again, from yesterday, but it is showing stress signs back upstream and inland in terms of earthquake activity. So it's any type of forcing of that plate, the southern end of the Juan de Fuca plate underneath the North American region is adding quite a bit of strain and resulting in earthquakes that we're seeing here upstream, and also some surface quakes here across the Sacramento Valley. 1.9. Just outside of Redding, also this morning here, a 2.6, pretty shallow crustal quake. That area had another, I think we've had 2 earthquakes here now in the last 24 hours around the Hamilton City area, just outside the Sacramento River region. I know we've had a lot of rainfall here recently, and the Sacramento River is running high, but I don't think it's associated with that. Potentially could be. Of course, that's a lot of weight out there when the river is much fuller. Could add some strain out there, but it's not just localized to this region. It looks like up north and also at the base of the foothills here as you get into the Sierra Nevada mountains. All key indicator, I feel, of strain out here due to the Cascadia subduction zone and the tremor activity that's occurring deeper into the region. So it's the southern end of the Cascadia. We'll check out the tremor map a little bit later on this evening, see what we have for today, but I'm guessing by this newer earthquake activity it's going to be somewhat elevated as well down here and underneath the area. San Francisco region, a couple smaller earthquakes, including one outside of Vallejo, 2.5 from early this morning. That not for sure which fault system that's associated with, but not with the Hayward fault. Hayward fault runs here. That's the area that had a little bit of swarming here in the last week. A couple of smaller quakes off the San Andreas fault, including a 2.5 and a 1.6 today. So somewhat elevated movement. We'll continue to keep an eye on the Hayward fault, as it's got a decent percentage here of seeing a major earthquake in the near term. And it's coming up. Actually, it's overdue in terms of the regular intervals that the Hayward fault sees on a 140-year reoccurrence interval. A little bit of movement here at the Coast Range down south, west side of the San Joaquin Valley. looks like a 2.1. But I noticed today here in the last 24 hours a little bit more 2.5 and above kicking up last night. This is a little bit more, a little bit above average compared to what we would normally see. The latest at 2.5, that's that one there outside of Vallejo. Portola Valley, that's on the San Andreas Fault there for 2.5 this morning. There's a crustal quake up here in Northern California. Petrolia 3.1, 3.2 down in Barstow last night. As far as any aftershock sequences there from that earthquake, nothing. But that's a very shallow earthquake as well out here in this little chunk of land where a lot of strain can build up between the two areas. You got the Pacific plate, or the plate boundary here, the San Andreas Fault. Of course, that runs as the plate boundary. And then the Garlock Fault shear zone. When we see earthquake activity in this little chunk of land here, that's a good indicator of high strain out here against the plate boundary and the shear zone. The shear zone right now, pretty quiet up here across the Garlock Fault shear zone, but inland here around that arrow, left-pointing arrow, we got some elevated activity. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Southern California here has been quite active. This is a 2.5 map here for the West Coast. And that's a decent amount of earthquake activity for the last 30 days of 2.5 and above. 154 earthquakes. Now that's just a fraction of all the earthquakes that have taken place here. That have taken place in the last 30 days of all magnitudes. We're looking at 3,759 earthquakes. That's a lot of earthquake activity. The majority of these, of course, too small to be felt by us here at the surface level, but still, it's earthquake activity nonetheless. A lot has been centered here around the San Andreas Fault, the southern segment, with a couple different swarms. This swarm right here is definitely interesting because it's right on the southern branch, and it's in an area that I have not seen any earthquake swarming take place here. And that's, quite worrisome when you see that type of event taking place on an area that's well overdue. That could unleash an 8.1. There was a number of threes in there as well, so it's not just like a bunch of little microquake activity. These were a number of threes and twos and ones. 36 earthquakes there for that little earthquake swarm on the San Andreas Fault. One from yesterday, so nothing new today to report for that area. There's another crustal quake, very shallow, negative depth there, indicating the strain out here against this plate boundary for 1.2. Further out and about, a couple smaller earthquakes up through Montana. Yellowstone, nothing showing up. But let's see, the seismograph stations are still offline. So not for sure what's going on here. I mean, it's a weekend. Well, it's not the weekend anymore. Yesterday was a holiday. We should be, even if there was a technical glitch here, this should be online. Let me see if we got the... well, that site right there uses the University of Utah seismograph station. So even if... let's see here. I don't know where I'm going to have to group these bookmarks one of these days. But for the most part, they get their data from the University of Utah that measures the seismographs, that monitors the seismograph stations there in Yellowstone. But yeah, they're offline for some reason. Hopefully they come back. But no earthquake activity really showing up here on the USGS map for that area for now. Down south here across Texas, a couple smaller earthquakes out there. They still, well, yeah, they haven't fixed their maps yet. Still looks like a road map east of the Rockies. Once you zoom in here to the west, though, it's looks a lot better as far as the map colors and whatnot goes. But over here, still got the old-fashioned road map. Where are we going to go today? Is take Highway 69 up north out of Dallas and end up somewhere up in Oklahoma. All right, let's see. But yeah, not a whole lot of earthquake activity happening out across the eastern portion of the country. Got a lot of colder air coming in. Refreshing that, making sure that's the most recent quake map here. One earthquake on the Puerto Rico Trench, 3.4. within the last hour. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the Santorini area. USGS showing one more earthquake. Well, that 4.8 is much further east, so let's go over and check out the main data here. Registering, let's see, in the area, 926 earthquakes. That's in the last few days or so. This seismograph station here, the R25B3, is it looks a little funky. I'm not for sure what's going on with it, so I switched over to the this station up here. It looks a little bit more. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if it's having some technical issues or what, but I switched over to this station here, which is still roughly about the same distance from the earthquake swarm down to the 4D one. I could use this one, but may have to. That one's showing a little bit of earthquake activity as well, but 4D looks like it's having some type of technical issue there. But either way, the swarm is continuing across the Santorini area northeastward. Number of earthquakes striking here overnight. The latest in this area looks to be a 2.2 within the last 20 minutes or so. Lots of 2s, lots of 3s. If we look at the seismograph station here for today, this is today's most recent one. This is directly at the Santorini volcano area, not at a distance. So this is picking up every single earthquake that's taken place here. And that's still, upwards in well over 100 or so. And some of these larger events from yesterday. The 4s, and I believe that red one was the 5-pointer, 5.1. Nothing big after midnight so far. The majority of the big ones from yesterday, but we still have quite a bit of earthquake activity there on the graphs. No signs of any fluid movement, similar to what we had seen here a few days back for a couple hours, but still a lot of little earthquakes, and there's hundreds of them. So as far as this going away, it has not died down whatsoever for this region. And USGS only going to show 4.0 and above. EMSC model, if we look at that area, I'll go ahead and zoom in real quick and see what we have. These guys are not showing anything in the last hour, and only a handful of earthquakes here in the last 24 hours. So there's way more than that. The thing is, these folks are not keeping track of every single one, but the seismograph stations don't lie. There's quite a few earthquakes there overnight and this morning so far. So, we'll just continue to watch it and see how it plays out. As far as the Campi Flegrei region off the Naples area, see what we got. A little bit of earthquake activity in the last 24 hours. Not so much compared to yesterday. Nothing in the last hour. Just a sequence of swarms that we see out here. That ultimately, if they escalate and the ground, you get enough inflation going on, could turn into eruption. But it's been a heavily monitored region for a long time here. They see these periodic earthquake swarms and swelling of the land, and then it drops down, goes away for a few months, and comes back. And luckily it doesn't turn into an eruption, but it's very common to see that type of event: earthquake swarming and swelling of the air, swelling of the land, inflation, and then deflation, followed by a couple months of disquietness, and then a rinse and repeat type of cycle. Speaking of that, I want to check out Kilauea Volcano, see what's happening over there on the big island of Hawaii, where still looks like it's paused. I don't see any eruption type activity going on. Let's see what they have to say here. Tuesday, February 18th, 8:36 a.m. Hawaii time. No eruption as of yet, but they're stating that the next episode, that'd be number 10 here, is likely within the next 1 to 4 days. And that almost predictable. If you look at the deformation data here, we've seen the last 9 episodes here of on the monthly chart. This is the electronic tilt at the Kilauea Summit in East Rift Zone. Inflation leading up to an eruption, and then deflation, right, during the eruption. It pauses and then continues to build back up until the next eruption, and then same goes for number 10 here, maybe. We're at that time period here where we should see another eruption take place there across the Kilauea volcano. So nothing new, nothing escalating with respect to that. Just it's been a cycle. This next one will be number 10, 10th episode there of eruption at the summit of Kilauea volcano. Far as any worldwide large activity goes, well, that goes to a 5.6 down here across the Peru-Chile Trench. One of the latest and the largest here in the last 24 hours. Not a big earthquake. No 6-pointers here to report so far, but it looks like South America area definitely getting some more activity here in the last 24 hours than the past couple days. So we'll keep an eye on that. Some broader scale activity taking place along that major subduction zone. Atlantic Ocean, awfully quiet. There's our swarm out there in the Santorini area. Also some, it looks like a lot of swarming out there around Iran. 5.1, a couple fives out there. Let me go see what we got. Well, let's see here. No, I take that back. That is not Iran. It's just showing the swarming out in the Greece area. And then also it looks like another separate swarm here along the plate boundary, roughly within, going to be this area? 4.8 earlier this morning. Let's go check out the EMSC model since they're the best that covers the international region. So yeah, there's that. There's the Santorini area where we're seeing the earthquake swarm. Looks like there's a separate earthquake swarm over here. Not anywhere near the Campe Flegrei region, which is up here, but definitely a separate swarm going on here across this area. Interesting. There's a lot of activity stirring up there. Bunch of threes. So a lot more active out here in this region than we've seen in a long time. Something going on underneath this area for sure. Nothing new to report across the Ethiopia rift boundary. One earthquake, the latest quake here, it looks like on the map, central Turkey region. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Definitely got a lot of busyness going on there in terms of earthquake activity and potential volcanic activity. 4-pointer outside the Mount Everest area where that 7-pointer struck here some weeks back, 4.0. Typical clustering going on here across the Philippines southward. Nothing major going on across Japan for now. Down south, got a little bit of movement here across the area of the Antarctica region, 5.2 from last night it looks like. And New Zealand sitting in between a couple of these 5-pointers with only a handful of smaller quakes here along the southern end of the Kermadec Trench. Aside from that, kind of keep an eye on things here today and see what takes place. Not for sure what happened to this seismograph station. That's the one in Chile. That's way overblown. Looks like they're doing some type of adjustment. I'll have to fix that. Maybe add a different Chile station up there, but yeah. All right, space weather activity. See what's going on here across the sun. As expected, there's not a whole lot. Things are minimal, to say the least. Number of sunspots out here, but they're all fairly quiet. Not a whole lot of complexity within these sunspot cores, so I expect things to remain quiet. As far as anything off on the eastern limb here, let's see what we got as far as bright features go. I don't see a whole lot over there. So we're just kind of entering into a little quiet stage here of solar flaring activity, or lack thereof. Really nothing major in the forecast. That includes the aurora forecast as well. Pretty quiet out here on the sun. As far as any close approach asteroids, it looks like they've increased the chances there of 2024 YR4, which is expected to have a very close encounter with Earth in 2032. They bumped up the chances there, I think, to a 2.8% chance. So the odds of it hitting the planet are going up. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. I still haven't... I'm still studying this asteroid here. I want to put together a little presentation with regards to that close encounter in 2032, but I'm working on it. We'll get that here in the near future. Today, well, this is going to be tomorrow actually, a 20-foot bus size asteroid coming within about 173,000 miles. Not way out there, but it's not super close either. If you think back in February of last year, we had one come within about 12,000 miles of the planet. That was, I think it was about an 8 or 9 foot, really small asteroid. But I don't believe it hit the planet. So this is fairly safe, 26 foot. That's a bus-sized asteroid, not that big. The one that's expected to hit, or could hit us in 2032, is could be upwards of 300 feet. So that's why there's a lot of chatter going on here and a lot of potential what's going to happen, what ifs. All I know is I would not want to be in that path for a 300-foot size asteroid. That can do quite a bit of damage locally. All right, let's see here. Weather outlook. Nothing major. A little bit of marginal risk for some severe weather across Texas area. Aside from that, pretty quiet day as far as severe weather goes. Nice day out here in Northern California right now. It's supposed to hit 65 degrees or so. So not looking at any rainfall in the near term, I don't think, unless things have changed, which it looks like they have a little bit. Maybe our next chance of rain towards Wednesday and Thursday for the West Coast. After that, guess we'll have to see. Still got a lot of, man, look at that cold air. This is what I was looking at last night. Just goes to show you how quick these things can change. Last night, this cold air pool of cold air was positioned over here across the West Coast. Well, that shifted well east of the Rockies here, so it looks like you guys are going to get some snow and ice again, similar to what we've seen back in January across the southern states. High pressure out on the West Coast, goodness. But maybe a little bit more rain. I don't know. We'll see. That's a ways down there, though. I'm not really a fan of the long-term models, but it can work out right in terms of the forecasting. But a lot of times these things will change in the blink of an eye from model run to model run. But near term, looks like our next chance of rain for California comes midweek. A lot of rain up in Washington and Oregon, though. Quite a bit. All right, what else we have out here, folks? Yeah, so for the live stream, I added not this one, because this one looks just a little, I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if it's having some type of technical issue. So I added this one right here, which does show some of the earthquake activity. So that's on the live stream now, so you guys will be able to see that. That little swarm that's taking place is over here. Nothing big, but there's definitely a lot of little quakes underneath this area. It shows 31 kilometers deep or so. So whatever's going on is a deep event underneath that area. But we'll continue to watch it. This area has been quite amplified. Goodness. As far as the Naples area, the earthquake activity We got 179 events out here in the last couple days. The latest one looks to be a little one-pointer. But it appears as though that earthquake swarm that was taking place out here is mellowing out quite nicely. Can't say the same thing, though, for the Santorini area. It's still pumping out earthquakes quite a bit. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Stay safe out there, and I'll get this fixed here. I'll have to look for a different chili station. Little earthquake on China Lake right now, a little bit there in Southern California as well. We'll just keep an eye here on the San Andreas Fault. It's been, like I say, it's been active here. Earthquake swarms on it, all around it. You know, eventually that strain that's built up at the plate boundary itself will pop. That's the best wording I can think of for it. And you know, it could happen at any given time here. It's no one knows when. No one knows when at all. So the best thing to do is be prepared. Have a good one. We'll see you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. It's 11:11 a.m. Have a good one.